Good morning you guys, it's Karen and I'm here to talk about this, the new Salicylic Acid 2% mask from The Ordinary. I thought it would be interesting to you to compare it to this one from The Ordinary, which is the AHA 30% plus BHA 2% peeling solution. So they're both masks and they both have salicylic acid in them. So like I said, I thought it would be useful to compare the two. If you see me looking down, it's because I've got my notes here. I wrote down the difference in prices, ingredients, etc. And then of course I'll give you my opinion at the end. So the new mask from The Ordinary is £9.90 and the old peeling mask is £6.30, but you get 50ml in this one and 30ml in this one. So I think they're pretty comparable in price. It's just this one is £3 more initially, but I think they'll last about the same amount of time, to be honest with you. This one is 2% salicylic acid and that's it. That's all the acids that are in there. The peeling mask is also 2% salicylic acid, but it also has 30% AHAs in it. So it has a mixture of glycolic acid, tartaric acid, citric acid and lactic acid. The instructions for both of them are exactly the same. You put on a layer and leave for no longer than 10 minutes and rinse off. So exactly the same for both of them. Interestingly, on both of these and with all of their direct acids, there's a little paragraph at the end saying that they don't actually recommend direct acids, which I think is really amusing. I know people have mentioned it before. It's really amusing that they would bring out a new mask and then have a paragraph saying, but we don't really recommend it. We recommend non-direct acids such as the NIOD one. The claims for them are pretty much the same. You know, that they both give a good deep exfoliation, that they both reveal more radiant skin, that they help with the appearance of smoothness and irregularities on the skin, that they brighten up the skin. In the peeling mask, there's some advice that says if you can, with continued use, this will work on fine lines. That's because it's got the AHAs in it that obviously are more proven for aging, rather than salicylic acid is generally thought to be something better for sort of oily, acne prone skin, although they don't say it on this one. Again, they talk about with this, the enhance the appearance of smoothness and clarity, leaving the skin refreshed, targeting the removal of dead skin cells on the surface of oily and blemish prone skin. Yeah. Ingredients wise, the salicylic mask also has charcoal in it, clay, which is kind of standard for a mask, and it also has squalane in it, which is a nice addition to it. That's pretty much all there is of note in that one. And obviously in the peeling mask, there is the addition of the 30% AHAs, but this also has aloe, B5, vitamin B5, and it has something called Tasmanian pepperberry, which is known to soothe irritated skin. They're very different formulas. This mask is more of your typical mask formula. It's black and it's that sort of, you know, feels a little bit creamy, but this is, or lotion like, this is quite thin actually. Whereas this doesn't feel anything like a mask. It is bright red and it just is like a sort of gloopy liquid that I've just put all over the top here, but thankfully I didn't get it on my t-shirt. But you can see it's more like a watery formula, and you put it on and it just looks like you've burnt your face. So very, very different feeling formulas. I have to tell you, I'm not an avid face mask user. I'm not somebody that regularly uses them. I just use them when I feel like my skin needs a bit of a pick-me-up. And you can see with this one that I've used about half a bottle. I didn't use it very much when I first bought it, but once I had used it a couple of times and felt a bit of a benefit, I kind of was a bit more on board with it. But I used this the other day and I wasn't sure whether to put a thick layer on or a thin layer. I'll put the video in of me applying it, of course. And so because it didn't say apply a thin layer, apply a thick layer, it just said apply evenly. I was like, well, I'm gonna go for a thick layer, of course, you know me. And so that's what I did, just all over my face. I didn't put it on my neck. And it has an instant kind of cooling effect. And I thought it'd be interesting to see if this starts to sting or hurt, because I have used the Nyon, I think it was called the Flavanone Mud, and that I couldn't stand how stingy that was. And so I know that, you know, Deciem do have some masks that don't suit my skin. But it wasn't at all unbearable. It was just, it stayed as a kind of cooling, slightly tingling sensation throughout the 10 minutes. So I was able to keep it on for the 10 minutes and skin didn't feel uncomfortable at all. The AHA mask has more of a tingle and less of a cooling effect. There's no cooling effect that I've noticed with this. It doesn't really feel like you've got a mask on because it's just that sort of liquid. At the end of the 10 minutes, this one had dried in a few places, and it had dried where I'd put it on thinner, which is usually the case with masks. But even where it had dried, it wasn't that kind of dry where it would crack, you know, and the rest of it just remained quite smooth. So I think I probably would continue to put on maybe a little bit less thick than I applied it in the video, but not a really, really thin layer, because that seems to be what will make it dry. And like I said, although it wasn't cracking, it was still dry and much easier to get off. That's what I mean. So much easier to get off in the places where it's a little thicker. But that's probably just each person to their own type of thing. You know, if you don't mind it drying, then this will last a lot longer if you only use a really thin layer. And I think you only need enough to cover your face, really, don't you, so that it's in contact with your face. You can see I had a big old spot. I still got it underneath my nose. That's one of those lumps that come up that just last for weeks on me and are really painful and then take ages to go away. Anyway, so I thought I'd be interested to see what it does to that, but it was kind of at the healing stage, and so I wasn't sure the salicylic acid would do much for it. But after rinsing this off, I felt that my skin was immediately quite hot. So I went to do my evening routine as usual. So I used my micellar water on my face to just sort of, you know, take off any residue that I hadn't got with the face cloth. And if that felt absolutely fine. And then I've been using the Matrixyl 10% just around my eyes, around kind of this area and underneath my eyes. And that actually stung. And that isn't one that usually stings me. It certainly doesn't sting me after I use the red one. So because of that, I thought, right, I'm not putting on any, you know, bakuchiol or anything at all other than a night cream, whatever night cream I was using at the time, and that did sting my skin as well. I think the one I was using up was a little called Dr. Jart. It's a ceramidin one. And so it's unusual for something like that to sting. And I have to say, at that point I was like, oh, my skin feels way too sensitive at the moment. But that only lasted kind of that evening and a little bit the following morning. I could feel it when I was putting even my NIOD FECC, you know, the eye serum around my eyes, and then when I put my day SPF on, but it was nothing like it was the night before. But I just felt like my skin is now ultra sensitive, whereas with this one, it's ever so slightly sensitive after I use it. My skin felt nice enough after using this, but it wasn't anything amazing. I expected more, to be honest. It was a lovely feeling mask going on. You know, I prefer the feeling of this going on than I do of this, because this just feels weird, like you're putting an odd watery solution on, whereas this is more the typical mask we're used to. But yeah, afterwards, I expected my skin to feel really clean and really soft, but it didn't. It just felt ultra sensitive. What I also noticed the following day, that's why I was telling you about the spot, I knew there was a reason, was the spot was all peeling, as was the corner of my mouth here. So I obviously got it too close to my mouth and that was all peeling. Now it's really unusual that this makes my skin ultra sensitive and this doesn't, considering they both have a 2% salicylic acid in them, and this one has more acids in it, so you would expect really this to be stronger, especially since it's called a peeling solution. But I think the fact that this has got the Tasmanian pepperberry in it and the aloe, obviously for me works on calming down that irritation. I thought maybe with this having squalane in it that would help, but you know, that's more of a to prevent dryness, isn't it, than to stop the irritation. So yeah, that's just how it worked for me. That's it. I just didn't really find any results from this. You know, my skin just felt sensitive, whereas with this one it feels a little bit sensitive, a little bit tingly while it's on, and my skin always felt just a little bit cleaner and a little bit more radiant. I think there's such a fine line between having a nice little rosy glow and having a hot burning face, you know, and a hot burning face is what I felt I got from this. Now I will still use this, I would use this again, but I would probably leave it on for only 5 minutes and see how I get on that way. That's all to tell you just now. I can't wait to see what the reviews are on this mask. This one on the Deciem website gets an 8.9 out of 10, so pretty good. This one has only got one review, which is her saying she's used it once and she found it amazing. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how people compare the two, if they compare the two or think they're very different. So normally, looking at the ingredients, I would have said that the 2% salicylic acid mask would have been better for sensitive skin because it doesn't have the other acids in. But actually I would say if you've got sensitive skin, this one might be better because it's got that pepperberry in it, which seems to calm down the irritation a little bit. If you have got acne prone oily skin and you just want to use salicylic acid, then this one would probably be the best for you. But if you want something that also helps with fine lines, etc., then this peeling mask would be the better choice. So that's pretty much all to tell you about these. I'd love to hear your opinions. Let me know what you think of this one and this one if you've already bought it and how they compare, etc. And I will give you a quick rundown of what I'm wearing. I have got on the number 7 foundation drops in Cool Ivory. On my eyes, I used my Visart Warm palette, but I used a pigment, an old pigment, a MAC pigment called Pink Opal that I don't think you can even get. I don't think it's existed for years. So it was just one that I was like, let me try it and see if I still like it. On my cheeks is the Clinique blush in Iced Lotus. On my lips is the Stila liquid lipstick in Perla. And then on top, I just put a bit of this CYO lip gloss in. Does it say? Your Best Side. It's just a nice light pink. That's everything. Thank you so much for watching and I'll speak to you again.